Hi, with me today is Myra Johnson. She's the authoress of 2 books that I see so far, but we'll find out if there's more on the way. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Nice to have you. The first book that you had published, I believe, was Autumn Rains.
That's actually the second book that's been published.
Okay, let's try again.
But I have 3 books out right now. My debut novel was called One Imperfect Christmas, which was put out by Abingdon Press Fiction, a brand new fiction line that debuted last September.
Oh.
And then these 2 have come out through the Heart Song Presents Book Club.
Very good.
And they're 2 of 3 novels, contemporary romances that are set in Missouri.
Missouri. Are you from Missouri?
I'm not. My grandparents all were from the St. Louis area,
Okay.
and so it's kind of a special place.
I love St. Louis. It was the first place I moved out of state. And I will always have a special place in my heart for St. Louis. So that's where these take place?
In somewhere in Missouri. Autumn Rains is outside of St. Louis. Romance by the Book is set around Lake of the Ozarks.
Beautiful
I'm
place.
sorry, that's near Branson, actually.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yeah. My 3rd book is in the Lake of the Ozarks area.
And I always wonder how authors keep all of those things straight.
I don't. These 3 have come so close together that it has been hard sometimes.
I'll bet. So what inspired you to get started with romance the first book that's not here?
Okay, One Imperfect Christmas. I actually got the idea for that in a dream. It was around the Christmas season, and I had watched a lot of those sappy Hallmark kind of movies and thought, I'd like to write something that would be touching and have some good romance in it with a Christmas story. And one night I woke up and I had this germ of an idea just come to me in a dream, and I just started working with it and playing with some what-ifs. And pretty soon I had my characters and my plot, and I went from there.
Wow. So do you map out your plot first? Are you one of those?
Oh, no.
Or do you just start it off and see where it takes you?
Usually I have an idea of a situation, and then I get the ideas for the characters that would fit best into that kind of a problem.
Okay.
And then I may have an idea how I want it to end, but what happens in the middle, the characters, they pretty much tell me themselves what's going to happen.
You can already feel what their preferences are as the story's moving along and how they would prefer to go.
Sometimes scenes just write themselves. I have no idea something's going to happen or a character is going to say a certain thing, and I just have to go with it.
Well, that's kind of miraculous. That's the mystery of writing.
It's the magic of writing, yeah.
It certainly is. And so let's talk about the next one that came out, which is Romance by the Book.
Okay, Autumn Rains is actually the first one that came out. It was out in last November. That story was inspired by some true events. I have a brother-in-law who was a pastor of a large church in Houston, and one night a man walked up into their office to ask for some help. He was an ex-con just out of prison on his way to a job opportunity farther south. Mm-hmm. He got off the bus at the Houston Greyhound station, put his things in a locker there, and then lost the combination. So everything he owned was in there, and he couldn't get to it unless he had money to pay to get a claim ticket to open the door. So he walked in the middle of summer out to this church, which was 25 or 30 miles away, asked my brother-in-law, the pastor, for some help, and he had a fund set aside for such purposes. And as he was driving the man to another bus station to be able to get back to the Greyhound station to get his things, he asked him, well, what were you in prison for? And he said, murder. And then they were a little bit nervous, and they were very glad when they finally dropped him off. But when he told the story to the family, I was listening very closely, and I thought, okay, I've got to use this in a book somehow. And it turned into a romance about an ex-con who had redeemed himself in prison and found his faith. And when he was released, he wanted to find the friend who had supported him and written letters to him during his stay, and he ends up finding the friend's widow. And she's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of her husband's tragic death, and so she and the ex-con end up falling in love.
Aww.
So it was a lovely, heart-wrenching story for me to write, and it's one of my favorites.
Some of these stories will always stay with you,
Right.
don't they? Okay, tell me a little bit about Romance by the Book.
That one is about a very shy young woman who has got a huge crush on her favorite romance author.
Ah.
And when she gets the chance to meet him in person, she thinks that the best thing in the world has happened to her, but she's so nervous. And it turns out that he isn't quite what she expected, and she finds out that the man who's really in love with her and that her heart really belongs to is right there in her own hometown.
Aww.
But it's a story of learning to see the beauty in yourself and being able to accept love and believe in that love.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like not only are you writing mostly fiction, you're really pulling in as many heartfelt emotions as you can. I bet you're a very sensitive person.
I guess I am. Any story, whether I'm watching a movie or reading a book or a TV show, there needs to be an emotional connection for me, and to determine what moves people, what drives them, what are their fears and their desires. That's what I try to draw on in my novels.
Mm-hmm. Are there more books coming?
I do have a third romance set in Missouri coming out probably late spring.
Okay.
That one will be titled Where the Dogwoods Bloom. And it's about a tennis player who gets a broken ankle and has to give up her career. She ends up going back to her hometown and finding the boy she knew in high school, and they get back together.
I know with the internet up, people are reconnecting with their high school loves, and so that's not uncommon a bit, and I bet you'll have a lot of success with that one too.
I hope so.
I hope so too. We've been visiting with Myra Johnson, and you can go to your favorite bookstore or your local library and look for all her books.